Welcome back to the Business of Soul Searching. I'm Erin, your host, and I invite you to join me as I travel from city to city, interviewing people from different walks of life that have faced their fear and came out on the other side. Are you ready for this? This is Erin from the Business of Soul Searching podcast, and I'm here with my usual mix of soul searching stories and controversy. This is season 4. I'm back. Last year I did radio, which was awesome, but I'm wanting to take my podcast on the road and do more pop-ups, and just really the focus this year is finding art, creating art, and being art. So, a better way to start than in an art gallery. And I have Tapia here, who is a recording artist, an activist, a painter, cultural practitioner, an entrepreneur, and much, much more. So thank you so much for joining me on my show, my first episode back.
Home Bomadum to the Business of Soul Searching, to Erin, to the platform, to everything that you're doing, and to PVD, Prof City, Taino City, culture. That's what we do.
Yes. So just to kind of warm people up to the mic, people that are familiar with my show know that in my introduction, I have my guests play a game because I love playing games and, kind of spices it up. Yes. So basically what I have people do is I have you pick a number from 1 to 50, and the number corresponds with a question, and then you answer the question to the best of your ability. So, if you want to start.
72.
1 through 50, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right, hold on. 1 second. I gotta really do this for real, right?
Definitely.
45.
45. Let me see. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. What is a social expectation in your particular culture that irritates or offends you? If you have one.
There's a couple, but they tie into kind of a lot of the same things.
Okay.
One of the social expectations that irritates me is having to us as like me, having to show my wealth in things that don't matter. Like, for example, your car.
Yeah.
Your liabilities.
Okay.
Having to show a prioritization of liabilities as opposed to a prioritization of assets. So it's like when I'm in the street, I gotta be in the dopest car. You got to be
to appear to other
when
people.
you go to the bar, you gotta buy out the bar, or you got to buy a bottle or buy a couple bottles. It's like all that for you to be just given human value or just perceived in that kind of way. Because like when you go, I've been coming out here, I've been doing shows for many years in this environment, working with a lot of different artists and business owners. I've brought value even when I didn't necessarily make my money. I always made sure everything was paid. Every single expense was paid. That there's no debt left on my side for the show. So everybody made their money, whether I made my money or not.
Okay.
Right? But still, it's all about consumerism. So you'll do that. Some people will appreciate you for that, but there's other places that you brought value to over and over again, and you don't ever get a
thank you,
an exchange.
Give back.
It's always just what you're gonna buy. You know what I mean? And I understand it's businesses.
Yeah.
But it's like that seeps into the people. It seems to everybody's values of just what you're gonna buy, what you're gonna buy, what you're gonna buy.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
Why are you here? Why are you here?
Exactly.
Why are you in my, my place of business? Why are you?
that kind of mentality, that like trick mentality, you know, that bothers me. You know, it's like where everything has to be about what you're spending, what you're doing, what you're showing. And even if you do some of it, because this is our culture, this is our organic American culture, it's where everybody comes here to get their money. We got foreigners that come here, set up businesses in our community,
and make more money than a lot of people that,
you know what I'm saying? And they come and they spend with the urban community more than anyone else. Because you got some quickie marks, for example, you know, some little quick stop marks, the Habibi marks, whatever. You got those in suburban areas, but the highest concentration of that is in our community. And you got them, and they come and but you got to understand the mentality that comes from it, because we spend the most, but we have the least. So that it ties back into so many different things.
Absolutely.
As far as values. You know? Absolutely. And so that like social convention, that kind of like, you know, that you got to wear everything on your sleeve and
exactly. You have to physically show everybody how much money you have. Every time you walk anywhere or go anywhere, like.
That kind of bothers me. You know. Because it's like I've had value, and I can't front. I've had value in that. I've had the trucks. I've had the sports cars. I've had the you know, the things that I wanted to have at different points in my life, all over the place, all over the country. But it's been like, when it comes down to practicality, realness, what we're doing moving forward, resets. You know, because I went through the 2007 real estate crash. I went through going through losing property, investing in properties, and a lot of things like that. And after all that consumerism, I'm still wanting, you know, more substance. Wanting more forward movement, and I'm trying to project that onto to the people and talk about that.
Absolutely.
You know?
And we see that in your art, in what you do, that you're expressing yourself. You're coming from inside and expressing it in words, versus taking from out and looking at these materialistic things, which I've done too. So I don't want you to think I'm just talking to you. And I am too. I'm a consumer too. It's just like I want to go just outside of all that a little bit sometimes and think about nature, like, you know. Think about a waterfall, think about relaxation, think about meditation, and also balance, and how that works, because that's where we all really come from. You know, everybody's fed. The stream is the truest expression of love in nature. If you look at metaphysics or a metaphor or something representing something else, the stream gives. And it gives up itself, and it ends up wherever it's up. It is absorbed. It provides nutrition. It provides life, in essence, an environment for a million different things. Even the rock is formed from the flow of the water. It's, you know, it means to so many different things. It down to become what
exactly,
it is.
And it's like, that's, to me, that's real love, unconditional love. It's the stream. And so, how can we express that in this system that we're at? That is not necessarily based on nature, but it's based on human likes, dislikes, advantages, and disadvantages. And that's what economics is.
Definitely, it's true.
So, but how can we use that to our goals and our need, and what we need, in a lot of different ways in America, is healing and understanding and building bridges. How can we celebrate our individuality and value?
Self.
Also celebrating all. Celebrating you, so we can appreciate each other.
Yes.
You know, and we can't necessarily do that by just valuing consumerism, but we can do it by valuing culture, which is individual, but is also tying back to lands, to values, ownership, an understanding of beyond ownership, but responsibility as your weight in existence. Because it's like, when we talk about ownership, right? We talk about that's kind of a foreign ideal that came with the pilgrims.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really think about it that way. You have things that you utilize, things that you own, but how can you own the street? Do you? As much as we write it on paper, how can you own the street?
That's true.
Does anyone, even if you plant this tree, you don't really own the tree.
Yeah.
Because even if it dies, even if you rip it out and leave it on the ground, it dies, it goes back to nature, it don't go back to you.
Yeah, it's not yours.
So as much as this concept of ownership and control, dominance, you know, it's something that's so deep within us that it's hard for us to conceive of everything else in spite of it. You know? So like, how do we take that if it's individual? How do we make it valued enough? Well, I try to give my ideas, but then present them in a way that is grandiose enough not to be just thrown to the side. And to present that to the people and let them reflect that onto themselves. You know, it's like I got a line from a song called Neon Lights off of my first album. And it's that, you know, we can rebuild pyramids, and we can go into the future until it reflects us in the present. You know, so like we can take these things, all these pieces, all these things that reflect us, that are art, and also come back to culture, to our values that reflect the record of time of who we were and what our thought was, and bring that to others in a way with quality enough to where they can accept it through their consumerism and then provide value in that way, because they're going to spend money on anything. We're all going to spend money anyway. But how can we? Well, how can we bring value, a perception of value?
Definitely.
You know.
How do we center it, make it more relevant to us and more fulfilling?
Yeah.
What we're spending.
Yeah, and when you know, why do you have to feel like when you spend with your brother, you ain't spend?
No, I do that.
Exactly.
I do that. I'm like, what? But I check myself now, and I know next year in the year, I check myself. I'm like, does this bring me joy? Does this actually does this clothing or whatever I'm purchasing, if it's podcast things, it brings me joy because this leads me to a place in my life where I am completely independent and I'm living for me and I'm doing for me. And so, but I encourage people to do that too, to really take a look and say, do you really like everything? Like, does it bring you joy? Does it bring you a fulfillment to purchase this thing?
And that's value, right?
Definitely,
value, you
for
know?
Sure.
What does it really reinforce? And in everything we purchase, and every day, everything that we're choosing to spend our money on, since we now understand value or understand what it's really worth, what are we choosing to spend our money on? So sure. If it whether it's culture, it's art, it's music, it's fashion, whether it's
rosé,
food, it's drink.
Yep.
All of these things are reflective of your values within yourself. You know, and really it doesn't mean that your values, like what you know, is worth more or less than anything else you don't know.
You definitely have the wisdom. I'm like, it's awesome. Wherever you acquired your wisdom, whether it's just living through life, meeting people, reading books.
I'm just it's a little bit of everything, but I don't want to say like I'm. You know, I want to appreciate myself and not devalue myself too, but like wisdom is just that what is, you know, and I had to die to live. I have a lot of combat experience, and I never planned originally on serving, you know, the U.S. Army or the United States corporate interests or any of those things, but I came to a point in my life, you know, where it seemed like quiet desperation, where I didn't find any value to anything I was doing. And what was I doing? I was working 9 to 5s. I was also, you know, doing hustles on the side, a lot of different things, but pretty much I saw it like doing this in the way I was living, which a lot of folks, urban males, in their youth lived the way that I lived. I was just gonna end up dead or in jail. And 2 years to the day after I did kind of find a way out of that, and I did it through the military and out of desperation, because I had a child and another child on the way, and I was 20 years old. I found a way out of my mentality more than anything else. Because after I went through everything, and I went through all the combat experience and the context of violence and death, and what that really does to your consciousness,
psyche. Oh yeah,
and your appreciation of yourself, of what you're worth, it caused me to see all of reality in a separated, or this. I kind of disassociated myself from all of it, and saw myself outside of it. I saw myself outside of my relationships. I saw myself outside of my friendships, and I saw myself outside of the army or the force. I saw myself outside of all of that, and I was just like, my soul. What is my soul doing here? And when I finally kind of found where I was at, it was the end of my military my career, right? Okay. I was 5 years active in the U.S. Army. After the end of that, I found that I wanted to do this, and I was doing this ever since.
Okay.
But it was a voyage, and then I went to college. I did so many different things, but throughout all of that, it was like I had to redefine my value of myself outside of just being a cog in the machine, just some guy. So who am I? Because if I die out here, or if I come back without a face, because I was a 50 cal gunner in a gun truck, on security missions to every post in Iraq, if I come back without a face, or without a body, or without my worthiness as a man at that time.
So there's so many things I can
be honest with you. No, don't mean to be too vulgar. I was trying to get to that, but I didn't know what happened.
It's okay.
I was just saying.
You were soul searching, and because I'd asked you where you got your wisdom from, and you were saying that you had to disassociate, and even from kind of just going into the service and everything, and that actually transitioned you into.
Oh yeah, doing what I was saying was that I had to find a place to who I was and how I saw myself, and what my identity was outside of my body and worth.
How other people are using you.
If I came back with no dick, what would my life be like?
I know that would be one of the biggest concerns, is how do I continue to procreate, or how do I do my service of how the world sees me as someone that
beyond that, it's just that as men, most of us, they say we use our penises as weapons, but it's only because we use that as our self-worth. Trust in a tribe, and then I brought that, and that became part of what's called the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of America. Federation of Aboriginal Nations of America is an organization that represents pre-colonial tribes, tribes that were first contact tribes, and people that can trace their family, or have done the work to trace their family to pre-colonial times, or in the case of my family, Puerto Rico, because of the genocide that we've gone through, pre-American time, to show a path. And at the end of the day, that's for not just my children, but my entire family, as their livelihood and their progeny is to found a trust, and the trust is in a vehicle to contain assets for the betterment of a people or a ideal, education, all the schools of trust, all of the universities, let's say. But there's also trusts that are formed. For example, the school department, each municipality is an institution. It has its corporate structure, but at the base of it is a simple trust. So I founded that for the betterment of my children, but not just my children, my progeny, my gene, our people. My people, as much as I can, anything that I can do, and that doesn't depend on them getting a fucking job.
Yeah,
it doesn't depend. There's my partner Brooke. Doesn't depend on them doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Doesn't depend on them doing some shit for this.
Yeah.
All of these things. These are all part of a collection that's owned by the trust. You know?
Definitely.
And that's the kind of things that we need to do, because you were saying, ownership. You gotta form a trust for your kid.
You do. Because what are they gonna have?
We
don't even have retirement.
Exactly.
If we were to do 9 to 5 forever.
I was trying to find certificates in degrees in somebody else's whatever.
Yeah.
Never gives us power.
We've been there, definitely.
You know? And I've done it and I'm
yeah.
You know, it's an illusion.
No, I hear you. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we will see you guys on the flip. All right, so we are going to jump back into it. Like I said, this is Erin from the Business of Soul Searching. This is Tapia. We were having an awesome talk, kind of in our introduction, just about you. Something that I noticed from coming to, this art gallery, actually, that was showcasing your work, is that culture is a huge piece, like a huge driving force for you. And one of like the burning questions for me, I'll be a little bit selfish in this moment, is like, why does culture impact your art so much? Why does it influence it the way that it does?
I think that culture is a living human record that exists within human beings, and that is in practice. So everything that is done is spiritual if it's done with a certain intent, certain frequency. So culture is a living record of who we are. There's commercial or commercialized culture, but there's cultural practices, and those practices say who we are because it's how we do what we do, and then that impacts history between human beings, because we understand how I do what I do, how you do what you do, and how they're alike and how they're different.
True.
And it brings something to the collective of the human family. And so culture is an integral part of being a human being, is having a culture, having an
origin.
Well, it's not just an origin, but it's a pattern, it's a way, it's an understanding, an intelligence. It helps people to understand themselves, and people that are alike, that are from certain places, have certain understandings because of their environment, and they have cultural practices because of their environment. And then there's also foods that come from cultures. For example, corn in the Americas. It's pretty much a staple throughout.
Yeah, throughout.
North, Central, and South. Cassava, yuca culture in the Caribbean. It came from the Caribbean, but has extended to Africa. Nigeria, particularly. Why is that? Well, people come back to culture. And why? Well, a big part of that is European incursion and slave culture. To why it came back that way. Why some of the staples in America are not staples in colonized nations in Africa. So it all has a big impact as far as culture, because now our culture, the things that we choose to do now, are largely impacted by commercial, industrial, military interests and means to how we receive culture and how we value culture. So it's about coming back to the values that we know and hold dear and true to ourselves, as opposed to being a foreign value and foreign culture. So we have to understand the values, but we understand where we're different and where we look at things differently. And culture is a big impactful thing in everything that I do, because everything that I do are products of cultures. Specifically the organic American urban culture, which comes from the organic American Aboriginal indigenous culture. So when we talk about that culture, you come back to certain practices. For example, the practice of getting together, enjoying food and drink, and then enjoying the circle.
The circle meaning?
The circle is the cipher.
Okay.
It's the same thing. The circle, the b-boy circle, the MC circle, or the graph writer's circle. Either way, or the DJ booth. The DJ is circles around them.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
everything is
So the whole thing is that in America, we've always done that around the village. We played our games, and then we had our practices. And so over time, that has come into us playing our music, which we always did, but playing contemporary music around the same circles. So you can go back to all the way to whether it's spirituals, Negro spirituals, or you can come back to any kind of music, organic American music, from jazz to rock and roll, not rock and roll.
Okay.
Or to hip hop, or to any of the subsets of that, which have been given words as R&B, soul, neo soul, or any of them. What you come back to is the same practice of performance, of bringing around your essence to the people, and the people reflecting the energy. And that's organic and American, and it's translated to everyone. It's indigenous in many different ways, but the way that we did it was made unique and was valued, even if it was in an enslaved
Definitely.
way.
And even still now, it's
it's the most dominant pattern of all the cultures and how people relate to each other. So culture is the main piece of what I do, more than any artistic medium, more than painting, more than fashion, more than speaking, more than anything, because it's about the essence of where it comes from and how I appreciate and add my flavor to that. Not just, and if I add my flavor to the culture, then I add my flavor and value to the marketplace.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
And I don't have to stress about the marketplace, because I'm staying true to the root, to the culture. The industry does what the streets do. They just try to commercialize it and segment it and
say
own it.
We're better than, or not we're better than, but we don't do that. But it really is the same thing.
It is exactly the same thing. They just want to. They say, well, we can own this, but we can't own that. So we'll say this is better because we can own this and we can capitalize on it, and we can make multiple sales and make subsets and derivatives and distribute, derive, display, and do everything that they do, but not honor the root. And that's happening right now in the world with b-boy culture. The breakdancer and the b-boy, that's us. You can't say it comes from anywhere else but here organically in America, in the biggest city in the world, right? But it's now all over the world, and it's used and it has spread the culture, but now it's being commercialized in a way to where it's high stakes gambling, basically, because we're looking at tournaments, we're looking at certain b-boys, certain folks getting endorsements, You know, we're looking at all the different things that happen to it through commercialization, but the essence of, I feel like, why the kids would start dancing around your family is kind of being lost. It's turning into gymnastics.
Like, you know what I mean? Show-offy type of.
Yeah, but it's not like something that everyone always just does. You know what I'm saying? It's taking the essence from it when we're commercializing it so much. You know, and what can I say? I'm kind of a piece of that too, because I'm seeking to exploit my work and my skills and the things as best I can. The only thing is just when large corporate, conglomerate, multinational interests get involved, it really takes the soul out of things. Definitely. So it's like, how do we temper that?
Just so sad.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times, like, at least what I'm experiencing, I just want to do this. You know, I want to be able to interview whoever I want to interview. However, like, if you think of the business side, like, you know, you interview certain people and it's just sad. It sucks the life out of it. Yeah. But I actually, I know one of my questions for you, because I feel like you're further along than I am, is how do you balance it? How do you stay true to yourself and still understand that there is an economy out here and, you know?
Well, you try to balance it. I think you try to balance everything in life with relationships, with meaningful, productive, efficient, rewarding relationships. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can deal with anyone.
Definitely.
Your choice of who you deal with, how you deal with them, and how you find value and meaning in those interchanges makes all the difference. So if you can find value and meaning from, and this is something that maybe it's a street thing, but if you can find, if you're in the streets or you hustling, and I speak to this just because it's something relatable that I understand that many folks understand. If you're in the streets, sometimes you may need some work done on the house or some work done on the car, or you may need a printing job or whatever it is. You can't take just the mentality of dealing with someone that is begging you for money or you're dealing with a drug to everything. That's life. You can't take the mentality that you deal with someone that's your family as an addict to...
True.
But you can take the essence of understanding how to deal with people to everything. So you can learn lessons from all that and bring it into your life and practice it, you know, and know how to maneuver within the things that you have to, and every situation ain't as meaningful or powerful, but you got to try to bring the essence of your best to that, and your best understanding of people and yourself, and how to bring that best value to everything. So it's like, as long as you keep providing value, it will reflect it to you.
That's true.
You know, like kind of.
That's true.
Reality will.
Definitely. And you know, if you keep putting out negative energy, we were talking about this before even when we started recording, honestly, it's just going to come back. Like, if you're in that negative state of mind, and we all get there, but if you stay there, you unpack, you live there, it's just like, why wouldn't you have negative relationships? Who are you attracting when you're just negative and you're just, you know, putting out like negative things, you know?
And you know, but everybody is equal, and everybody has to learn
from
where
each other.
they lie within the great web.
Definitely. I agree.
Within the relation to every other person. And so, like, everybody's journey is individual. There's no me teaching you how to be the best you.
Yeah, but you do teach me something
of learning
you.
How to be the best you can be, and how others have, right?
True.
But how do you turn that into your personal journey where you are actually able to live and breathe and provide value from the things that you are. That's different from each person. You know, each person has to have their own way and their own struggle in order to find meaning to provide value.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's pretty deep.
It is. So my question, before we get into your art, my question is, so how did you become a chief? Like, maybe I'm stupid in like not understanding that or knowing.
No, it's a valid question, and
I think
dope.
Other people maybe
people,
might be listening and are curious, like
for people that want to understand how
the
that
culture
works.
And just what is the rite of passage like?
All right. I came into this as I came into a knowledge of myself and a love of myself. I sought to find myself in many different identities. I was a b-boy, I was a hip-hop guy forever, but I never understood really what that word Taino meant or what it was when we say indigenous.
Yeah.
But it was always with me because it is what we are, and we are it. So I didn't have always an understanding because it was a given.
Yeah, it was already assumed.
My mother always taught us that we were descended from Taino, not in her words from her, but that we were. That's the people that we were. Yeah, her mother was indigenous.
Okay.
Because she looked a certain way.
Yeah,
you understand?
Yeah.
And then my father, that they were Tainos, but it was always outside because it was like, this is part of our identity as people, you know. But she couldn't say exactly how. And I sought to understand that. Before that, I sought to understand myself and my difference from others, what makes me unique. And my physical manifestation of phenotype, that's my features, the melanin in my skin, the texture of my hair, the way that my nose looks, the way that my lips look.
Definitely.
All of these things that become externalized in society and valued or devalued.
Definitely.
So I wanted to understand that, and I went through many things. I went through a conversion to Islam. I went through practicing that. I went through trying to understand that and the past of Christianity, and I went through understanding external ideas and dogmas and religions and the occult, all of these different things. And what I found is that in none of these external identities that translated to either Africa or the Middle East or Europe or anywhere other than America, I could find a proper reflection of myself. And because I couldn't, I thought it deceitful to just adapt a foreign identity, change my name to X, or you understand what I'm saying, or say been someone, use foreign words to describe who I am. And that led to me trying to say, well, I can't really figure none of this out, but what I do got is my family history, and I can try to trace that up.
Yeah.
My mother couldn't tell me my great-grandparents' names.
Yeah.
She couldn't tell, because of these things that we all go through, these colonial incursions, and she couldn't. And so I went through researching that and putting that together and being able to tell my grandfather what her grandparents' names were. And finding that history for all my family, for both sides. And when I did that, I found and I encountered a legacy of resistance to colonialism that I never knew existed. And I encountered that in the form of my grandfather, Olohoyo Rosario Guy, and he had that name Guy, C-A-Y. But in my family, it had been turned into a couple of variations, Kai, Kayez, Kaiz. Different folks would say it and spell it differently, even though we were all family. So they had different last names like that, split it.
Okay.
And they would adopt, and we, as Puerto Ricans, we have two last names. So we hold both of them. But when I went into that, I found that in the original historical record, my grandfather his name was spelled a certain way in the original 1899 census when the United States of America came to the island of Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is a commonwealth, but in those records, I found that over time, the variations in the spelling of the name came from census takers who would vary the way that they recorded the name, not the way that my grandfather recorded the name. So he recorded it as Kai, C-A-Y, which is actually a word in the Arawak or Taino Borinquen Taino language, which means island. And that word was adopted into the word called K, which is a maritime term in the English language. But I found the only connection to indigenous culture and identity through a name, or what they recorded as a name, which is actually a title in the record. And I saw how they had tried to change it over time. So it showed Anglicism, C-A-Y or C-A-I-Z-E-Z, things that changed the nature of where the name comes from. That's so important because it's kind of the only tie that I've been able to find in the historical record beyond genocide that shows that there's still an indigenous surname in existence. And that's from my grandfather.
Wow.
When I found that, I convened family meetings and spoke to my family and to my clan of mothers, my clan mothers. My mother, my aunts on both sides. And I told them after my studies that this was a time to reclaim, because I had found this pattern. And I said, I found this pattern. I would like to take on the mantle of doing this for our family and also for our people, to show that there's a place here. And I was in the process of doing my genealogy because I wanted to found a trust. But then the knowledge of a tribal trust came into me, and I convened a meeting of the clan mothers, and they said, we wouldn't even know any of this if it wasn't for you. There's no one else that should be in this role as chief if we reorganize ourselves back into a tribe.
And that was because of your energy? Or
that was because of my energy, my motivation to know myself, and I came with it, and I just...
With the education,
I was very sincere about it.
Okay, I respect that.
It was like I did this after I had learned investigative techniques and critical thinking and these kinds of things before, but then through universities or whatever, I refined some of it. But it wasn't based on that. It was based on a willingness to just trace the steps and just search the records.
Where are you from? It's like you want to know.
Yeah. So I got a meeting tomorrow going on with my family. So I mean, this has been a few years. This has been 10 years, over 10 years of a process. And this one, like tomorrow, I got a meeting of family members coming from Springfield, Mass. Family members that are my family. They're mentioned in my trust because I traced all the lines, as many as I could. But folks that I've never met personally. But they're coming to have an understanding of where they stand from our indigenous culture. Because we can stand from the social security number, the government name here and all this, and the European names, or we can stand from our indigenous identity, and us as indigenous people have the right to dual identity because we're victims of genocide and the raping of our culture and the destruction of our culture. So we have the rights to remedy, redress, and repatriation under the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and the Organization of American States Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. So we're attempting to organize our families back in the proper way and reclaim the lands that are historically and contemporarily ours, and reclaim the viability and reestablish the viability of our families, our children, and our progeny, our future, our potential. We're doing this through tribes and through also other tribes, and I came together with Ray Watson, Powaupi Niumpag, Chief Billy Guy, Sagamore, with so many folks that have such even strong roots to this region and are misclassified as people of color, and they've had the dissolution of their families. And now they're trying to reorganize the tribes, the Narragansetts, the Nahagansetts. These are all really the same people, but the words have changed over time.
Okay.
That's what separated them, you know. There's a lot of this kind of stuff going on within our community with using European words and ideas to define ourselves and to trust to be recognized by governments that are not our government, to then ask for things. But what we're doing now is standing as foreign, strong, united, tribal governments that are indigenous to the same land. So it came about because I organized my trust, my family, and they decided to support me in this way. And it was like, you know, kismet. It all the different things coalesced to bring us to this point where, you know, we're doing things at the United Nations, and we're doing things culturally as events. We're doing exhibitions of art. We're doing presentations of fashion. We're doing interviews and media appearances, and we're doing tours dancing. We're doing tours performing hip hop and Aboriginal Indigenous American culture, contemporarily referred to as hip hop. We're doing a lot of different. We're writing books. I just wrote my first book called Aborigin. I'm working on my second called Taino. So it's like we're doing all the things because the universe has coalesced all the things to come into the right point for us to do it, because I tried to resonate with truth. That's what I think it is. It's just trying to resonate with the truth.
Definitely.
Of yourself, who you are, who your roots are, giving honor to all of that, and trying to find a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
That makes sense for you. Yeah. It is, because a lot of things that took place happened sometimes before you were alive.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, but I respect many things about you, but one thing, you know, which goes with the theme of this episode, which is just finding kind of your origin, your start, and what's the point? Like, a lot of people I feel like that I encounter are just like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this business? Why am I doing whatever? And it's like, that's what's going to drive you, is why. Why are you doing this? Where did you start that made you feel like you should or need to do this? And that was my interest, at least.
I think people should listen to themselves.
That's
definitely the business of soul searching.
Exactly. Why?
It's listening to yourself. Exercise that. Use it. Use the wisdom of your ancestors, your grandmothers. Use that and create your unique universe and paradise. You know what I'm saying? Because we can all do that.
We can.
You know?
And we should. And one of the things, like, with my listeners, and I know we're going to have to wrap up shortly, but one of the things that I empower my listeners to understand is that they deserve that. And that's what I think, or at least I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for anybody else. I will say a lot of the things that held me back from starting any of the things that I've started and just living in my greatness is I didn't feel that I deserved this. Even sitting with you, sitting in an art gallery, running a podcast, anything. Years and years ago, and I think that's huge, you know? So that's something that I want to leave people with. I want you to let folks know how they can get in touch with you if they're like, I want more knowledge, I need more you. I need more you, and I need more of that energy, or I want to collab, I want to know about PVD Fest or whatever. How can they find you?
There's a lot of ways, but pretty much across the board, if you type in at TAPIAUNO and the number 1, all one word, Tapia Uno 1. It will come across, whether it's on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. It will come across as a hashtag. It has its trending numbers and all its things. So pretty much you do that. Or you can find me on Instagram if you just want to go on Instagram at Tapia the One. But the place that you can really support me at, if you do want to support, is by going to tapianow.com. TAPIANOW.com. It's the home for the ideological envelope that I am pushing. So it has my art, my fashion, my writing, my blog. It has my store. The new store is coming up called Taino City. It's gonna have these hoodies available. We didn't get to talk about this.
Yes, but, we'll take pictures. Make sure you guys got everything on Instagram and.
So we got this handcrafted stuff. This tightly created and designed work that I got, that's t-shirts, and then we also have the print game that's coming up. We're going to be printing these pieces in all variations of sizes directly from tapianow.com, tainocity.com. So that's how you can support. If you want to follow, you can find me at Tapia101. But you know, this is the way. PVD, Prof City, support everybody from your community. Just like, you know, did it take Nipsey Hussle passing in LA for everyone over here to appreciate what we're doing, what everyone's doing in their cities? Well, you know, that's what we need to do, is get more tight around the waves that are rolling in our communities.
Definitely, and support, and come out and physically support, whether it's free, $5 to get in, or whatever. You want support, you should go support other people.
Of course, you just give it. And you
exactly,
give it
and it comes back.
Dope.
It does really come back, though. Yeah. People don't believe it. It really does.
Well, you know, it's like there's an economy of everything. Even what you give on the street, like, it's not about what the person's gonna do with the money. It's not about what even if it's somebody on the street, like right on the corner with a sign. It's not about what they're gonna do with it. It's not about none of it. It's about you and your willingness to give and receive.
True.
Because you gotta feel worthy of that reception. How do you feel worthy of that reception? You gotta invest in it.
Taking. If you've
you
been
invest,
exactly,
you give, then it comes back to you. Definitely. And it's not feeling entitled to anything, but it's understanding that we're within everything. Everything gives back, receives from us, and we perceive it all through our minds and our senses. So what can you do? You can sense the giving. You can sense the reception by taking part in it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So give, receive freely. Again, at tapia101.com. Thank you very much. Hahombo matum ankatu. Let the gratitude be. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
hosting me, for talking about all of these things, and for being a light post, you know, in this darkness for many of our people. Examples like this is what makes us better and lets us perceive betterness, by us seeing that there's other things out there and that there's people that provide that. So there's hope. So the business of soul gives hope.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, coming on my show. I hope you guys listened to this episode, and I'm sure there was a lot of things that we talked about. If you guys didn't get it, rewind. There's so many gems that he dropped. Make sure that you check in, save it, download it, share it with a friend. You know, share it with someone that you love, because there's just so much that went into this interview. And I'll see you all next week. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Business of Soul Searching. If you have any exciting soul searching stories, please email them to thebusinessofsoulsearching@gmail.com for a possible shout out in next week's episode. Most importantly, take a calculated risk this week. Don't do it for me, do it for you.